Forget the tiny plastic windmills sold by the dozens in bland souvenir shops. Forget the chaotic red light districts packed with the hurried footsteps of thousands of rushing tourists. Those images are merely a fragile shell concealing a much greater and more profound world waiting just beneath the surface. Today, we will tear away that superficial layer to step into a kingdom of absolute contrasts and breathtaking beauty. Welcome to the Netherlands, a land that is truly a proud living entity, breathing its majestic rhythm right below sea level. This place is unlike any European nation you have ever known or experienced before. There is a brutal, yet breathtakingly beautiful truth here that defines the very soul of the land. Over 1/3 of this entire country should by all natural rights be completely submerged beneath the freezing and dark waves of the ocean floor, but with a fierce will to survive and an intellect that pushes past all conventional human limits. The people here have poured their hearts and souls into fighting an eternal and unyielding war against the endless fury of the North Sea. They have raised massive steel walls and colossal architectural marvels, reaching far out into the open waters to tame the devastating and destructive power of wild nature. The most magical and ironic thing is that a land which must constantly brace itself to fight for survival every single second of the day has somehow miraculously cultivated a rhythm of life that is incredibly carefree, deeply peaceful, and wonderfully tranquil. You do not travel across the world to this land just to be herded through suffocating crowds or to aggressively fight for a single photograph in a massive sea of strangers. If you carry a soul weighed down by the invisible pressures of the fast-paced life back home, a culture that constantly drains your energy and places incredibly heavy expectations on your shoulders every single day. If you are deeply exhausted by those judging and probing eyes that constantly question who you are, where you come from, and what the color of your skin signifies, then this country is the absolute perfect sanctuary and escape for you. You come here to find a completely new rhythm, a much softer and more relaxed version of life, where the true definition of luxury does not lie in expensive designer items or flashy cars, but in the absolute and undisturbed peace of your own mind. Try to close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself strolling along ancient cobblestone streets that have stood the test of time for centuries. The crisp and clear morning air brushes gently past your skin, carrying the sweet and comforting aroma of warm waffles, fresh out of the oven from a tiny neighborhood bakery right by the quiet canal. You walk at a slow and deliberate pace, letting your shoulders drop and breathing in an atmosphere of genuine and pure freedom without ever needing to worry or feel anxious about a single judgmental stare. Here in this space, you are never treated as a strange spectacle. You do not need to put on a heavy suit of armor or tense up to constantly prove your worth to anyone around you. You are simply allowed to exist, to blend seamlessly into the crowd, and to be embraced by the most sincere, carefree, and warm smiles from complete strangers passing by. Equality here is not some empty political slogan. It is the natural heartbeat and the very breath of every street corner where absolutely anyone is respected, honored, and welcomed with open arms. That is the quiet freedom and the deep emotional healing you have likely been craving for so long. An overwhelming sense of absolute safety seeps into every single cell of your body when you realize you can just sit quietly beside a deep green canal, watching locals on their bicycles glide by slowly through the soft morning mist and feel your entire spirit being gently washed clean. All those invisible burdens and heavy thoughts suddenly melt away into the cool air, leaving only an infinite and profound sense of relief that you can finally breathe. Today we will leave behind the chaotic tourist trails and the overly familiar, crowded destinations. We are going to embark on an epic journey that pushes far beyond the boundaries of your everyday imagination to touch the most silent and majestic hidden corners of this fascinating kingdom. From the giant steel marvels that roar day and night against the raging waves, protecting the lives of millions, to the mystical, misty forests and the charming little villages that seem to have been completely forgotten by time itself. Prepare an open heart to receive a profound experience that will not only overwhelm your visual senses, but will forever change the way you feel about your own existence. This is a journey that brings you back to your most authentic, vibrant, and radiant self. Come with me and let us explore a spectacular, forgiving, and deeply welcoming world that lies entirely beyond your wildest imagination. Close your eyes and imagine you are standing at the very edge of the world, where a heavy gray sky merges with the roaring, shattered waves of the mighty ocean. Right before your eyes is not some peaceful, romantic beach, but an eternal arena, where nature displays its most brutal and primal power. The North Sea has never been a gentle friend. It carries within it a cold, ruthless fury that has lasted for millennia, always waiting to swallow everything in its path. But right here, at the absolute limit of this harshness, you will witness one of the greatest epics of human history. Forget about the dry historical dates or those complex, headache-inducing engineering blueprints. Just look at this masterpiece through the eyes of a traveler seeking true greatness. What appears before you is not merely a dam or a simple barrier. It is truly a fortress of the gods, a colossal steel boundary born from the sweat tears and the absolute genius of a people who refuse to ever bow down to fate. When a terrifying storm strikes, when the ocean gathers its entire destructive force to tear the land apart, these giant steel doors, the size of towering skyscrapers, slowly rise and slam shut. The sound of heavy metal grinding against metal amidst the howling wind creates an echoing vibration that shakes you to your very core. The seawater violently crashes and explodes into white foam, desperately trying to crush everything, but that divine wall stands completely still. Immobile and incredibly proud, that wall is carrying the full weight of an entire raging ocean to protect a fragile land that sits even lower than the sea level itself. The sheer contrast between the relentless brutality of the wild nature outside and the steadfast, impenetrable strength of this giant steel fortress brings an overwhelming feeling that words simply cannot describe. Yet the most wonderful thing does not lie in the spectacle of the storm, but in what happens directly behind that magnificent wall. In complete contrast to the absolute chaos of the ocean, everything inland radiates an incredibly strange sense of peace. Even when the most violent storm is roaring just a few miles offshore, the local people here are still casually sitting inside their warm glass cafes, sipping a hot cup of espresso and chatting with a smile. They do not hoard food, they do not panic, and they do not run away. They possess an absolute, unshakable faith in the masterpiece they have built. That is the feeling of absolute safety, a profound control over life that you will rarely find anywhere else on this planet. If you come from a place where you constantly have to face endless volatility, heavy daily pressures, and a lingering sense of insecurity, this scene will touch the deepest parts of your soul. You are witnessing the true definition of a carefree life, where even the destructive power of the ocean is forced to a halt so that people can peacefully enjoy every single moment. It is a perfect sanctuary where you can finally breathe a sigh of relief, let go of all your built-up tension, and allow yourself the permission to truly rest. This feeling of being entirely protected is the greatest luxury that anyone yearning for a soft and peaceful life could ever ask to experience. Standing before this monumental achievement, you suddenly realize that this peace did not come naturally. It was paid for with brilliant intellect, incredible courage, and a fierce desire to protect what is most precious. And right now, in this exact moment, standing on the boundary between land and water, between life and destruction, you can finally drop your shoulders, breathe in the salty sea air, filling your lungs, and enjoy your own quiet, absolute freedom. There is no pressure here. There are no judging eyes. Only you and the soothing heartbeat of a magnificent country, breathing peacefully beneath the waves, a place ready to open its arms and offer you the safest refuge in the entire world. Let the roaring sounds of the ocean fade into the background and step with me into a completely different world. A world so quiet that you can actually hear the heartbeat inside your own chest. Try to imagine a place where the concept of dusty asphalt roads, blaring car horns, and rushing crowds never even existed. Instead, there are only peaceful networks of canals sparkling under the sun and shaded by lush, ancient trees. Welcome to a land of real-life fairy tales, a hidden oasis named Giathorn, and the magnificent Weirribben Nature Reserve. This place is not just another spot on a map, but a perfect antidote for souls that are completely exhausted by the suffocating pace of city life. To truly touch the spirit of this land, you must wake up very early, when the morning dew still clings to centuries-old thatched roofs, and a thin layer of mist still hugs the surface of the water. Rent a small electric boat and glide gently across the still canal. There will be no loud engine noises to disrupt that sacred space. There is only the soft sound of water rippling against the boat, the rustling of leaves dancing in the early wind, and the melodic songs of little birds calling out to their flock. In that tranquil sunrise moment, you almost have this entire space, all to yourself, completely escaping the noisy crowds and the chaos of the outside world. The scenery unfolding before your eyes is so incredibly real and vivid that no camera lens could ever fully capture its absolute serenity. As your boat slowly drifts under tiny wooden bridges, arching over the crystal clear water, you will begin to notice a profound shift happening deep inside your own mind. The heavy defensive armor that you always have to wear just to survive in harsh megacities, the stressful rhythm of endless workdays, and the constant pressure to prove your worth all seem to simply melt away into the shimmering water. Here, amidst the gentle embrace of Mother Nature, you are finally allowed to breathe a sigh of relief. You are allowed to let go of every single burden. We are so often fed a completely false definition of luxury. In the modern world, luxury is usually measured by incredibly expensive designer bags, flashy sports cars, or towering penthouse apartments in the center of magnificent cities. But as you sit right here, letting yourself drift along this calm water, you will come to realize a completely different truth. True luxury is not something you can just buy with money to drape over your body, but rather a priceless state of the soul. Luxury is having an entire afternoon to leisurely lie back on the soft green grass, turning the pages of your favorite book under the sweet sunlight, without ever being disturbed or judged by anyone. Luxury is the absolute right to turn off your phone, cut off all connections with the chaotic world out there, and finally take the time to truly listen to yourself. For anyone out there who is desperately craving a much gentler existence, a concept we often refer to as the soft life, This place is an absolute paradise. It is the perfect escape, a true spiritual exodus for souls that have been drained by hustle culture and the heavy expectations of society. In this place, you do not need to try and please anyone, and you certainly do not need to race against the clock. The very concept of time in these roadless villages seems to slow all the way down, just enough for you to feel every gentle breeze brushing through your hair and every ray of sunlight warming your skin. As you drift deeper into the massive nature reserve, you will find yourself completely surrounded by vibrant green wetlands, swaying fields of reeds, and an incredibly rich ecosystem. Nature here does not show off any intimidating or violent power. Instead, it offers a beauty that is incredibly gentle, forgiving, and deeply healing. Every single touch of nature in this place feels like a comforting whisper in your ear, telling you that everything is going to be okay, and that you are entirely safe right where you are. The profound silence wraps around every single corner, washing away all the toxic noise and exhaustion of a life filled with endless worries and struggles. Just let the boat drift freely and aimlessly. Close your eyes and take a very deep breath. The raw scent of damp earth, fresh grass, covered in morning mist, and absolute pure freedom will completely fill your lungs. You suddenly realize that you are not just traveling anymore, but you are truly living in the most complete and meaningful way possible. There are no probing eyes here, no discrimination, and no invisible rules tying you down. There is only you becoming one with everything around you, enjoying the ultimate privilege of absolute peace. This is not just another stop on a journey to explore the world, but a profound spiritual awakening that helps you understand that sometimes, to find true happiness and meaning, we just need to learn how to slow down and fully embrace the priceless silence of life. Brace yourself, because we are about to shift into a completely different rhythm. Leaving behind the quiet canals and the misty fairy tale villages, we are heading straight into the heart of a spectacular visual shock. Forget the typical image of a traditional Europe with its narrow cobblestone streets or ancient moss-covered churches. Welcome to Rotterdam, an absurd, angular, and futuristic city that breathes the very essence of tomorrow. This place is unlike any other metropolis on the continent. It is a brilliant phoenix spitting from the dark ashes of brutal wars, reaching up into the sky with glass, steel, and geometric shapes that completely defy all laws of gravity. The moment you step out of the central station, a surreal skyline hits you, as if you just walked onto the set of a massive sci-fi blockbuster. You will find yourself looking up and wondering how those vibrant yellow cube houses can tilt at such impossible angles while people actually live comfortably inside them. Or when you step into the gigantic Markthal, a magnificent glass vault with a breathtakingly vibrant mural covering the entire ceiling, making you feel like you are standing underneath a massive galaxy overflowing with colors and flavors. The architecture in Rotterdam is not just built to shield people from the rain or the sun. It is a bold manifesto, a calculated rebellion, declaring that this city will never bow down to the tired old paths of the past. But the greatest beauty of Rotterdam does not lie in its flashy skyscrapers or its colossal suspension bridges. The true soul of this city is found in the footsteps on the pavement, and the faces you walk past every single day. Rotterdam is the truest definition of a multicultural capital. And I am not talking about that trendy performative diversity or the empty slogans you so often see plastered on corporate billboards. Here, diversity is the very breath, the natural and inseparable heartbeat that keeps the entire city alive. For travelers who are desperately craving a safe space, for those who have grown tired of feeling isolated or having to face probing, judgmental stares in other major Western cities, Rotterdam will offer you an absolute and profound sense of liberation. You will never be looked at as some strange spectacle here. As you walk along the bustling art districts or sit in trendy cafes hidden beneath modern buildings, you will see people of color taking the lead and absolutely thriving. Black and brown individuals are the ones running avant-garde art galleries, owning unique fashion boutiques, and leading the most creative culinary trends in the city. You see success pride and pure freedom existing powerfully on every single street corner. The feeling of seeing yourself represented so strongly and positively in a completely foreign land is an incredibly healing experience. You instantly blend into the crowd, becoming an essential part of this brilliant tapestry without ever needing to change yourself or shrink your personality. No one cares where you come from, what the color of your skin is, or how you choose to dress. You can freely dance to a beat echoing from a local bar, smile at strangers passing by, and receive the warmest, most carefree smiles in return. They will call you a friend and welcome you into their space with genuinely open arms. Try spending a long afternoon wandering through lively neighborhoods covered in spectacular and colorful street murals. Every wall here tells a unique story, an uncensored voice of free and rebellious art. You might drop by a small street food stall where rich Caribbean or African flavors perfectly blend with local ingredients to create an explosive culinary experience. All around you are the joyful sounds of conversations flowing in dozens of different languages. Yet everyone shares the same easygoing smile and the exact same vibration of liberated spirits. That is the exact moment you realize why so many people are actively choosing to leave behind the heavy, crushing pressures of their home countries to build a brand new life right here. They find in Rotterdam not just a fleeting travel experience, but a true and lasting quality of life, a deeply safe space for their souls to finally breathe and grow. This city does not force you to alter who you are, just to fit in. It naturally stretches out its arms to fully embrace and celebrate everything that makes you different. And as you stand right there in the middle of a sunlit square, watching people walk by with absolute confidence and pride, you will finally understand the ultimate truth. The greatest freedom in the world is not traveling to a place where nobody knows your name. It is traveling to a place where everybody accepts and celebrates your true, authentic self. In that moment, you are no longer just a passing tourist. You have truly merged into the proud and beating heart of this extraordinary city. Now let the hurried heartbeat of the city fade away behind you. We are going to seek out one of the most brilliant and magnificent, but also most deeply misunderstood symbols of this entire country. When speaking of the stunning flower seasons in the Netherlands, people usually immediately think of those famous conservation gardens, packed tightly with thousands of tourists pushing past one another through tiny pathways. Everyone rushes there just to desperately capture a souvenir photo, with dozens of complete strangers photobombing the background. But you did not fly halfway across the globe to come all the way here just to stand in line for a ticket and become another face in that suffocating and chaotic crowd. We are going to take a completely different path, a wild and secret detour that only truly free spirits dare to explore. Rent a small bicycle and leisurely pedal your way far outside the boundaries of those familiar tourist traps. As the late afternoon slowly descends and the sunset begins to paint the entire atmosphere in a rich honey glow, we will head straight into the heart of a magical region known as Streak. There are no ticket gates here, no protective fences, and absolutely no loud or rushed noises of any kind. Right before your eyes, in this very moment, is not just a simple flower field, but a magnificent symphony of colors, stretching endlessly all the way to the distant horizon. From an aerial view, this scenery is so incredibly vivid and surreal that you will feel as if some genius god of a painter had accidentally dropped their massive palette right onto the earth. Striking bands of deep crimson, bright yellow, vibrant purple, and soft pink lie parallel and intertwine, running endlessly to create a visual tapestry that possesses the power to hypnotize and captivate anyone who sees it. The proud tulips and daffodils tremble and sway gracefully with every gust of the late afternoon wind, looking exactly like rolling waves of pure color, gently washing over the quiet ground. You park your bicycle on the side of a small, quiet dirt road, taking slow and deliberate steps right into the middle of this vast ocean of flowers. The raw, earthy scent of damp soil, mixed with the pure and delicate fragrance of millions of blossoms, blends seamlessly in the cool air, completely filling your lungs. In this glorious and brilliant moment, you suddenly realize the most wonderful thing of all. There is absolutely no one else here. There is no constant clicking of intrusive cameras, no one rushing you to move out of the way or frantically pushing past. This entire spectacular and majestic horizon right here and right now belongs entirely to you. This is the most precious secret that no traditional travel guidebook will ever bother to tell you. For those who are constantly yearning to capture the most exquisite moments of their lives, those priceless, undisturbed photographs you have always dreamed of having without a single stranger in the frame. This is your absolute exclusive sanctuary. You can freely stroll between the rows of flowers, spread your arms wide to embrace the refreshing breeze, and capture every single perfect frame under the magnificent lighting of the golden hour. The sinking sun turns every picture you take into a deeply personal work of art, wildly vibrant and utterly surreal. But far beyond those picture-perfect frames, this experience brings you an invisible and profound healing deep within your mind. Amidst this epic sea of colors, completely surrounded by the sacred silence of boundless nature, you finally find a state of absolute peace. You realize that you are truly mastering your own space, mastering your own time, and taking full control of your most primal and authentic emotions. You do not have to share this serene silence with any loud or judgmental presence. You are no longer boxed in by rigid and suffocating urban rules. It is an entirely fulfilling sensation. The sweetest compensation for all those long months you had to brace yourself through a daily life filled with endless limitations and crushing pressures. Just close your eyes, let the wind caress your face, and feel the soothing heartbeat of all creation. You are not just observing a natural wonder, you are truly becoming one with it, shedding every single one of your worries. The sky gradually shifts into a deep crimson, and then a striking violet, signaling the close of a golden day. But deep within your soul, a brand new chapter of tranquil and radiant freedom has only just begun. This is exactly how you fully embrace the beauty of the world in a slow, carefree, and entirely unrepeatable way. Now come with me as we leave the vibrant colors of the mainland behind and head towards the far north, where the boundary between land and water is completely erased. We are stepping to the edge of the world, a place where all the laws of physics seem to be turned upside down, and nature shows off its most surreal magic. Welcome to the Wadden Sea, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that is beautifully free of those noisy tourist crowds. Here, twice a day, the entire ocean literally disappears. When the tide pulls back, a vast, boundless sea suddenly evaporates to reveal a giant, muddy wasteland, sparkling brightly under the sun. That is not a beach, that is the actual bottom of the ocean. And today, we are going to do something you probably never thought you would dare to try, walking right on this untouched ocean floor. The Dutch call this incredibly unique experience wadlopen. To begin this journey, you must be ready to cast aside all your hesitations and all those strict standards of perfect cleanliness that we constantly cling to in our modern urban lives. Take off your expensive shoes, roll up your pants, and take your very first barefoot steps into the soft, wet mud. The initial feeling might make you shiver just a little bit as the cool mud squishes up between your toes. But immediately after that, the most primal and intense connection between human and earth will transmit straight into your body. You are truly touching the heartbeat of this planet in the most naked and pure way possible. As you carefully walk across this endless ocean floor, a miraculous ecosystem, bursting with life, begins to unfold right beneath your feet. Tiny crabs hurriedly hiding under the mud, glittering shells of all colors scattered everywhere, and minuscule marine creatures busily surviving in the small pools of water left behind by the receding tide. Look far out into the distance, towards the sandbanks emerging in the middle of the vast ocean, and you will see colonies of wild seals lazily sunbathing, fully enjoying the absolute peace of this kingdom. The only sound enveloping this massive space is the sea wind blowing in your ears, the seagulls gliding through the air, and the squishy sound of your own footsteps. It is a perfect meditative symphony, composed entirely by Mother Nature, to wash your soul completely clean. For many travelers, especially those who always live safely inside their comfort zone and constantly seek out pre-packaged, convenient, and spotless travel experiences, wading through the mud on this wild ocean floor is a massive push that forces you to step far outside your familiar comforts. But breaking that boundary is exactly what brings an incredibly immense healing power. In the modern world, we are so often obsessed with keeping everything completely perfect and flawless. We are terrified of getting dirty, terrified of looking messy, terrified of losing control, and constantly anxious about the judging eyes of others. But as you stand right here in the middle of this giant muddy expanse, you realize that letting yourself get a little dirty by nature is actually the most wonderful and liberating purification. There is absolutely no one here to judge your appearance, and no one cares what your profession is or how much money you have in your bank account. This vast and untamed ocean treats absolutely everyone equally. Overcoming that initial hesitation to step right into wild nature helps you completely shed that stressful defensive shell you have had to wear for so long. It is an intense mental liberation, a profound soul cleansing that brings you back to your most authentic and original self. You realize how incredibly small you are before this vast universe, but at the exact same time, you feel a magnificent freedom completely filling your lungs. Take a very deep breath and fill your lungs with the raw scent of the sea of salt, damp earth and wild living nature. The blinding sun reflects on the muddy surface, creating a surreal landscape that looks just like a giant mirror reflecting the entire sky. In that beautiful moment, you realize you have traveled a very long way, not just in geographical distance, but on a deep journey into your own soul. You dared to abandon your familiar safety to embrace the raw, naked wilderness, and the reward you receive is a completely light heart and a crystal clear mind. The experience of walking on the bottom of the Wadden Sea is not just an expedition. It is a powerful affirmation that when you dare to let go and merge into the great flow of the earth, you will find the most tranquil, radiant, and fully liberated version of yourself. Let the salty sea breeze and the boundless space of the ocean slowly fade away in your mind. We are taking a turn deep into the central region of the country, where a completely contrasting world is waiting to awaken all your senses. Forget the image of a Netherlands that only has lowlands, mudflats, and rivers. Try to imagine yourself stepping through a time portal, dropping into a mystical kingdom that seems to only exist in the epic scenes of Lord of the Rings. Welcome to the magnificent wild forest of De Hoog Veluwe National Park and the timeless luxury of De Haar Castle. As you step deep inside the ancient forest of Veluwe, a sacred and tranquil atmosphere instantly wraps around the space. Faint strips of mist drift by, weaving into delicate veils draped over giant moss-covered trees. There is no engine noise, no chaotic sounds of the modern urban world. There is only the sound of dry leaves rustling under your footsteps, the wind whispering through the pine branches, and sometimes the distant call of a red deer echoing through the early morning fog. The scenery here carries an obscure and surreal beauty, making you feel like you are walking in an impossible dream, where nature still perfectly preserves its original untouched state, far away from human hands. But our time-traveling journey does not just stop at wild forests. From deep within that thick fog, one of the greatest secrets of Europe gradually appears before your eyes. De Haar Castle is not simply a structure made of brick and stone. It is the absolute embodiment of ultimate luxury, a masterpiece that seems to have been completely forgotten by the modern world. With sharp towers proudly reaching into the gray sky, massive walls casting their shadows over the still moat, and perfectly manicured, vibrant rose gardens, this is the absolute definition of splendor and majesty. Try walking across the wooden suspension bridge and stepping inside the massive grand halls, filled with natural light and exquisite murals. You can freely wander down the long, quiet corridors and stroll through the royal-style gardens without ever being bothered by pushing and noisy crowds. And the most magical thing of all is that you are enjoying all the privileges of absolute royalty at a cost that might actually leave you completely shocked. For travelers coming from America, who constantly have to deal with a suffocatingly expensive cost of living, where luxurious experiences usually come with massive draining bills, this place offers a completely different kind of liberation. Back home, you might have to spend thousands of dollars just for a short weekend getaway packed into a chaotic city full of stress and judging eyes. But here you are, treated like an honored guest, fully immersed in a luxurious royal space, enjoying an elegant afternoon tea inside a centuries-old castle on a budget that is only a tiny fraction of that cost. That is the true concept of the soft and relaxed life you have always been searching for. A life where luxury does not mean you have to carry heavy financial pressures or constantly try to prove your worth to others. You do not need to be a millionaire to experience true greatness, and you do not need to tense up and wear your defensive armor anymore. In this magnificent space, everyone is entirely equal before beauty. The peace and the feeling of being genuinely respected are present in every single stone, every blooming flower, and every warm, carefree gaze from the people around you. Sitting back on an intricately carved wooden bench, looking up at the proud castle, reflecting brilliantly under the golden sunlight of the late afternoon, you will feel your soul completely filled with absolute satisfaction. Those invisible pressures from the giant metropolis and the sheer exhaustion of the endless rat race out there have been completely blocked outside by this misty forest and these solid stone walls. Right here, And right now, in this secret fairy tale kingdom, you are the absolute master of your time, the master of your space, fully enjoying the most glorious freedom of your own life. When the night falls, and the winds carrying the chill of the North Sea begin to weave through every cobblestone street, the heartbeat of this country does not slow down, but shifts into a completely different state. Leaving behind the majestic natural landscapes and monumental architecture, it is time we uncover the true secret weapon that keeps the heart of this land forever warm and radiant. To truly understand the soul of the Dutch people, you cannot just stand looking from the outside. You must push open a heavy wooden door, step inside a traditional pub that locals call a brown cafe, and let every single one of your senses be fully awakened. The very moment that door closes, completely shutting out the freezing winds outside, you will be instantly enveloped by an atmosphere thick with warmth and nostalgia. The earthy scent of oak walls, faded by time, blends perfectly with the aroma of craft-brewed beer and the sweet fragrance of a piping hot stroopwafel. Under the flickering dim light of wax candles and yellow bulbs hanging from the ceiling, everything appears just like a classic oil painting. There is no deafening electronic music and no flashing television screens constantly broadcasting stressful news. Here, there is only the gentle hum of conversations, the clinking of glasses, and hearty laughter echoing from every corner of the room. In the Dutch language, there is an incredibly magical word that no English dictionary can ever fully translate. That word is gezelligheid. If you just translate it as cozy, that would be far too shallow and incomplete. Gezelligheid is a state of the soul. It is the feeling of absolute safety when you are surrounded by people who bring you joy. It is that deep familiarity seeping into every cell of your body as you lift a cold, dark beer with a smooth layer of foam. Take a bitter sip, and then nibble on the sweet melting caramel from the freshly baked waffle resting right on the rim of your glass. Gezelligheid is the ultimate art of enjoying the present moment to the absolute fullest, without any worry or rush. And this is exactly what will leave you travelers coming from a world constantly spinning in a vortex of status and materialism, feeling the most profoundly amazed and deeply soothed. In America, or in many other major Western cities, the very first question you usually hear when meeting a stranger is, "What do you do for a living?" Society often prices your worth based on your job title, where you live, and exactly how much money you make. We have become far too accustomed to wearing a heavy mask, constantly keeping our guard up and tensing our shoulders just to assert our position. But the moment you step into this magical space, all of those exhausting rules are completely left outside on the doorstep. Here, hospitality is something incredibly pure and beautifully carefree. Not a single person in this tiny pub cares whether you are a wealthy chief executive or a simple waiter. No one is scrutinizing what designer brand you are wearing, what the color of your skin is, or what culture you come from. All those invisible barriers, societal prejudices, and heavy discriminations are completely erased in this warm candlelight. You only need to pull up a wooden stool, sit right down at the bar, flash a genuine smile, and clink your glass with the complete stranger sitting next to you. The very second the glass clinks, you are no longer a lonely foreign tourist. You instantly become a friend, an essential part of this welcoming community. The feeling of being welcomed so sincerely without any judgment or hidden conditions is truly an experience with a massive power to heal your soul. It completely dismantles the heavy defenses and the deep exhaustion that have been building up in your mind for so long. Surrounded by complete strangers who somehow make you feel as familiar as your own family, you realize that life really does not always have to be so complicated or violently competitive. The greatest happiness and the most profound peace can sometimes be wrapped up entirely in a freezing winter night, sitting in a wooden room, smelling of sweet caramel, sharing random little stories, and laughing loudly until late at night. That is not just a local cultural trait. It is a brilliant philosophy of life, a gentle reminder that at the end of the day, we are all just free human beings, desperately craving to be connected, to be deeply understood, and to be loved in the most complete way possible. Forget the crowded central squares packed with people, or the suffocating red light streets flooded in flashing neon lights. If you only wander around the places that every travel guidebook points out, you will forever remain just a passing tourist, skimming the shallow and exhausting surface of this magnificent city. Why should you accept being a regular tourist, pushing through the frustration, when you have the absolute privilege to live, breathe, and enjoy the heartbeat of this place exactly like a true local? Today, we are going to bravely take a secret detour, a hidden path, escaping the gaze of the noisy crowds, to find the most authentic soul of this place. We will step onto a ferry, crossing the magnificent river, to leave behind all the chaos of the bustling central district. After just 15 minutes, floating on the calm water, a completely different world will slowly appear before your eyes. Welcome to the historic wharf, a massive shipyard made of steel and concrete that was abandoned long ago and is now completely resurrected and transformed into a brilliant sanctuary for street art and underground culture. There are no fancy museums here with strict silence rules or long lines of people waiting exhaustingly. This entire massive industrial space is one giant open-air museum where every brick wall, every rusting shipping container, and every old warehouse is a colossal canvas, screaming intense stories of freedom. You can freely stroll among the giant colorful artworks, feeling an explosive creative energy without being restricted by any boundaries whatsoever. This is where free spirits, avant-garde artists, and multicultural youth converge to build a cultural space with absolutely no barriers. For travelers who constantly crave a safe space where all prejudices are completely erased, this historic wharf is a paradise with a massive liberating power. You do not need to try and shrink yourself to fit in, because from the very second you step foot here, you already belong to this wild and liberated rhythm. Differences are never scrutinized or judged, but instead, they are embraced and celebrated in the proudest way possible. After your soul has been fully replenished by the brilliant energy of the underground art scene, we will return to the other side of the river, but we will continue to turn our backs on the cramped main roads to hide away in a quiet labyrinth named Jordan. This is truly the most rhythmic and romantic beating heart of the city. Narrow cobblestone streets completely empty of cars, quiet little canals winding under the shade of lush trees, and vibrant green vines hanging down from balconies deeply tinted by time. The air here is so pure and peaceful that you can just close your eyes and easily hear the whisper of the wind and the gentle clicking sound of bicycles gliding softly by. Instead of stepping into incredibly expensive restaurants, designed with the sole purpose of draining the wallets of naive tourists, we will experience a street food culture exactly the way the locals enjoy their everyday lives. Drop by a tiny family-owned shop hidden around a street corner where a friendly artisan with a gentle smile is carefully slicing rich golden cheese. You take a sip of cold craft beer, taste the authentic deep flavor of the cheese, and feel as if every single one of your senses is truly awakening. Next, you can buy a fresh pastry or a traditional portion of salted herring sprinkled with diced onions from a humble food cart parked right by the canal. These street foods have surprisingly cheap prices, but carry within them an entire universe of the most exquisite flavors from the local culture. The cost of this amazing meal is only a tiny fraction of what you would have to pay in the harsh megacities back in America, allowing you to fully enjoy a mentally luxurious life without carrying any heavy financial burdens. You casually walk along the ancient stone pavements, savoring your hot food and smiling to greet the neighbors who are watering their flowers on their sunlit front porches. That is the exact feeling of tranquil freedom, a wonderfully soft lifestyle without a single drop of pressure that you have always been longing to find. You are living fully in the most ordinary everyday moments, yet they are the most brilliant moments with the greatest power to soothe your soul. Hiding away in these quiet street corners and chatting carelessly with the hospitable locals will completely wash away all your exhaustion and stress. You no longer have to carry the heavy identity of an awkward, lost foreign tourist on your shoulders. Right here and right now, you are truly connecting, truly touching the soul of a magnificent city and finding yourself an absolutely peaceful refuge right in the heart of a glamorous Europe. Now, let us speed up the rhythm of this journey together. Since you are already completely captivated by the magnificent beauty of nature and the surreal architecture, it is time we open the most fascinating pages about the real everyday life here. This is a series of incredibly surprising truths and spectacular, yet endearing cultural shocks that no traditional school or guidebook will ever teach you. Prepare your mind to fully understand a truly great way of living. Number 1. When you strike up a conversation with a local resident. For the very first time, you will almost certainly experience a rather strong and direct cultural shock. The Dutch are famous all around the world for their absolute directness. This bluntness runs deep in their blood, in their every breath, and in the way they communicate every single day. Number 2. If you come from America, where we have grown so accustomed to a culture of beating around the bush, where people constantly try to use sugar-coated words just to avoid hurting feelings or offending anyone, then this land will feel like a completely inverted world. If you ask for their opinion on a project, a meal, or even an outfit you are wearing, and they feel it is not good, they will look you right in the eye and tell you exactly that, in the most naked and clear way possible. Number 3. But please do not rush to feel offended, shrink back, or take it personally. Because deep down, this is an invaluable lesson in pure sincerity. For the people here, being direct never means being rude or malicious. It is actually the highest expression of human respect. They respect you enough to never waste your precious time on sweet lies or empty, meaningless politeness. Once you begin to understand and accept this rule, you will feel your mind become incredibly light, because you never have to exhaust yourself guessing what the person across from you is truly thinking. Number 4. Now forget about those shiny, expensive supercars or those massive highways, constantly jammed with tens of thousands of roaring automobiles. When you step foot into this kingdom, you must learn to bow down to one absolute truth. The bicycle is the one and only true king. You are entering a completely different traffic ecosystem, where the law of the jungle for bicycles absolutely dominates every single corner of the city. Number 5. If you are casually walking along, deeply absorbed in the beauty of the misty canals, and you accidentally step into the brightly colored red lane reserved strictly for bicycles, you will immediately be surrounded by a frantic ringing of warning bells echoing from all directions. In this country, even the most luxurious car must obediently and patiently yield to a rusty old bicycle, and the cyclists carry such a massive pride that they almost never stop for any obstacle whatsoever. Number 6. To truly survive, fully blend in, and enjoy the rushing yet incredibly free rhythm of this place, you absolutely must rent yourself a bicycle. But before you confidently merge into that endless rushing stream, be sure to memorize the crucial hand signals. Extending your left or right arm before you want to turn is not just a simple rule of street etiquette. It is truly a matter of life and death. If you ignore this, you could accidentally cause a massive chain collision among hundreds of bicycles speeding through the early morning mist. Number 7. There is a massive and profound reason why this country is witnessing a huge wave of migration from expats, especially freedom-seeking citizens from America. They are fully willing to leave behind the bustling neon-lit megacities in exchange for a completely different quality of life, a lifestyle that truly focuses on deep healing and inner peace. Number 8. Especially for the Black community coming from America, bravely packing up their bags and moving to the Netherlands feels like a spectacular escape to find true and lasting liberation. They find an absolute safe space here, a magnificently tolerant society, where they are judged entirely based on their abilities and human qualities, instead of being prejudiced by the color of their skin. They no longer have to live in fear every time they step out of their house. They no longer have to face those probing, judging eyes, or be held back by those heavy, invisible barriers that always weighed on their shoulders back home. Here, they are simply allowed to live to be normal human beings and to proudly celebrate their most brilliant values. Number 9. The greatest secret that keeps them staying here forever is the unbelievably perfect balance between work and life. The concept of working until absolute exhaustion, the hustle culture that drains all human labor, or the blind glorification of people who constantly work overtime has absolutely no place in this society. Here, they value human health and fundamental joy far more than treating people like soulless machines only meant to print money. Number 10. When the clock strikes exactly 5 in the afternoon, a magical and synchronized event happens all across the country. Millions of people will simultaneously turn off their computer screens, slam their notebooks shut, leave their offices decisively, and flash a bright smile. They happily head back home to fully enjoy an evening with their families, ride their bicycles along the canal banks, or raise a glass with friends in those cozy little pubs. Not a single work email is allowed to bother them after hours. And there is absolutely no judgment or feeling of guilt when you put your mental health above everything else. That is the most perfect definition of a soft and relaxed life, a tranquil and radiant freedom that every single one of us always deeply yearns to hold in our hands, at least once in this priceless life. As the last rays of sunlight slowly fade away over the sparkling sea, and the rushing rhythm of this journey finally begins to slow down, let us take a very deep breath together to fully look back at everything we have just experienced. Let your mind rewind through the most breathtaking moments of this incredible land. From the image of ancient windmills standing proudly in the mystical mist of a quiet dawn, to the angular megacities brilliantly flashing with neon lights as the night falls, from the vast, untouched, muddy wastelands at the bottom of the ocean, and the vibrantly colored flower fields stretching endlessly all the way to the horizon, to the carefree and warm smiles exchanged inside an oak-paneled pub, deeply filled with the sweet scent of nostalgia. All of those brilliant and contrasting puzzle pieces have woven perfectly together to create an absolute masterpiece of an extraordinary nation. Now that you have truly touched the soul and the heartbeat of this land, you will come to realize an incredibly profound truth. The Netherlands is absolutely not just a simple destination on the global tourist map. It is not just a place holding surreal natural wonders or timeless architectural marvels. Far beyond all of that, the Netherlands is truly a living mindset, a magnificent philosophy of existence. It is a way of life where people bravely and fiercely use their brilliant intellect to fight against a brutal ocean, yet somehow know exactly how to completely relax their souls, to enjoy an unbelievably peaceful and soothing rhythm. This forgiving land has opened its arms wide to prove to us that true luxury never lies in shallow materialistic values. True luxury is the ultimate privilege to shed all heavy pressures and all the harsh judging eyes of society, so you can simply live as your most authentic, proud, and liberated self. You arrived here as a weary traveler, carrying so much exhaustion and anxiety. But as you leave, you will carry with you a completely washed and cleansed heart, a profoundly peaceful mind, and a fiercely reborn spiritual strength. This wonderful journey might come to a close right here, but our deep thirst for absolute freedom and world exploration will never stop. If you are still craving a deeply healing journey, just like this one, where you can fully immerse yourself in surreal, majestic nature and continue to be warmed by the most sincere and welcoming smiles, then our next journey is born exactly for you. Watch our next video right now about Switzerland, the magnificent kingdom of eternal snow-capped peaks. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to continue traveling with us on these epic and glorious adventures all the way to the very edge of the world. Goodbye, and I will see you soon on our next brilliant horizon.